This is a HeadGum podcast.
I did. I became aware when I saw Damon-splaining trending.
Damon-splaining.
And then I clicked on that and just fell into an abyss of anger.
Yes, an abyss of anger.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, the social media justice system that we're currently setting up in our country.
I know.
Right? You say anything wrong, we will find you.
We will find
you.
And take you out.
But also, I mean, I think what Matt Damon did was a little bit messed up, but like I had to make sure that what happened actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like people will just post articles with these very like clickable
titles.
Oh, yeah, it's clickbait.
Yeah. It's just
it's
clickbait
not real
titles,
yeah.
but like you don't. But then when you actually read it, you're like, oh, this isn't exactly what they said.
Did you watch the clip though? Did you watch like? The
I only
full
watched
episode?
the clip.
I just watched the clip.
The clip looked bad.
The clip looked really bad.
I was like,
the clip was bad. The clip was bad.
Yeah, it even kind of looked like I was like, whoever edited this episode of Project Greenlight, did not care about how Matt Damon.
And
looked
he
in this
said as much. He wrote a letter. I think it was to Vanity Fair and like a.
That
apology, upward inflection.
Oh my God.
An upward inflection apology. Where he's just like, it was edited, it didn't show the whole sort of conversation.
Right.
But
yeah. I mean, it looks almost like it didn't show the whole conversation, but even still,
it was
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good TV, right? So it's just like you edit it so people, it's trending. So people are like, Project Greenlight, that's back.
But also, with Project Greenlight, it's like technically if it was taken out of context, we can watch the show and still see that he did not pick a filmmaker.
Yeah,
of color.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So like killing. So I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but he still didn't do it.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the thing is, like, the whole thing is, I actually watched the episode, and the woman, I'm forgetting her name, I'm so sorry, is that she wasn't upset,
I think
but
it's
she
Effie Brown.
Yeah.
And she pointed out that like the only person of color was like this prostitute gets smacked in the face by by a white pimp, and I'm like, did no one see?
But here's the thing, like the uproar wasn't in the fact that was the casting or what happened, but the fact that someone said something about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like the actuality of like the casting being so clearly whitewashed.
Right.
No one said boo.
Right.
But when it's a topic of conversation, then people want to jump. So that's
well, because
more
it makes
concerning.
people uncomfortable. They're
Yeah.
like,
Don't touch it.
That's not what we're doing.
Why would you say that? Why'd you see that? No, that's
I know.
what I see.
That's true.
That's what you see.
That's what I'm looking at.
And then
it's like, why do you got to bring this? Why do you always have to bring this up? Why does it always have to be about race?
And then someone holds Matt Damon and is just like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
But he didn't even apologize.
It's not your fault.
He was like, I'm happy the conversation to start it.
Right.
Where you been, Matt? The conversation been started.
Yeah.
Jonathan Braylock, James III, Jerah Milligan.
What more can I say? You know what it is.
Men can jump.
Black actors, man. Black actors.
All right, here we go.
Yup.
What's up?
We here.
We here and doing it.
We got a guest too, guys.
We got a guest. That's right. Drum roll. Boom. We do.
Sounds like a Oompa Loompa call. I'm offended.
I thought we were all going to do the same drum pattern. But
No, we just do three different ones.
Three different drum
That
patterns.
was
Three
terrible.
different ones.
We can't. We should just have like a button where it's just like.
No, that's okay. Let's just say it's like we did African drums.
There you go.
Oh.
In honor
of the film.
In honor of the film. But first, let's introduce our guests. Tonight. Today,
if you
whenever you want.
If you're listening to it at night.
Whenever you're listening to this. Yo, do people listen to this and go to sleep? You know they do.
Do they?
Sometimes before I go to bed, I
listen to
listen
some
to
podcasts
us.
at night.
Yeah.
Really? But we get real aggressive on here.
Oh my God, we need to introduce our guest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
The one and only Natasha
Rothwell.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
For the listener who may not know who Natasha Rothwell is, what's your problem? No.
Yeah.
Better.
Be better.
An amazing performer. She's she's been in Wild and Out.
Yup.
Guilty. I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's how we got close, though. That's how we got to know
I know.
each
That's
other.
how I met your Rob.
That's how we got to know each other.
And also has written for Saturday Night Live, some of my favorite sketches that I've seen.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Performs at UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York City.
That's right.
You host Couple Skate.
I
there.
do.
And
Do you take it personal?
Take it personal.
On Fridays and curfew on Saturday.
And curfew.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're gonna have a good time today because we're talking about coming to America.
Coming to America.
Coming to America.
Just a strangled bird.
I was trying to do like a nice sound for the.
Nice sound. Yeah. Like, all right. There you go.
For this nice sound, we're going to strangle this ostrich.
We're going to strangle this ostrich. And
So coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy.
That's right.
And Arsenio Hall.
Yes.
Arsenio Hall.
Man
with
the
cameos
long-
with just about
everybody.
every big black star.
James
Absolutely.
Earl Jones.
James
Yeah.
Earl Jones.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Eric LaSalle.
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and also Eddie Murphy again.
And Eddie Murphy.
All right.
And then Eddie
Arsenio
Murphy.
Hall.
And Arsenio Hall
Arsenio
again.
Hall a couple times.
And then Eddie one more
But then
time.
Eddie
right?
Murphy, right, again.
Yes.
Love it.
So this movie came out in 1988.
Yes.
Just so for some context, it was a pretty big box office success. Not like Beverly Hills Cop, which was just off the charts.
Right. Really?
But no, it wasn't as big as Beverly Hills Cop.
crazy.
But
Yeah.
that's because Beverly Hills Cops was so big.
Right.
It still
They did
made
3 of them.
It made like 128 million domestically, 288 million worldwide. It was like number 3 that year.
That's great.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
And it's a rated R comedy. So I think the other thing that we forget, I like to remind people, is that rated R movies do not do as well as PG-13 PG movies. But like Eddie Murphy's, almost like all the movies he did at first were like rated R.
And he bankrolled his fans from like 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop, and Saturday Night Live.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he had like a wide fan base. So people were just
Huge.
like, we can go ahead and bring the family to this. Don't
Right.
tell.
Yeah,
Right. Which I think, kind of maybe one of the first things that I want to talk about is like, this movie has a very predominantly black cast.
Yeah.
There are maybe like 2.
Louis Anderson
Or
is
3?
the only
Louis Anderson is
white
the only-
speaking role.
There's also
the
Eddie
taxi.
in white face.
There's
though.
Eddie in white
Right.
face. We'll
Oh,
talk
right.
about that. We'll talk about
Right,
that.
right.
So
Oh, and the cab driver.
there's the cab driver.
Right.
There's Louis Anderson, and there's like the woman on the train who's like,
Right.
Oh, you're
It's
right.
like,
They're
I'll
3.
marry you.
Yeah.
Right. But Louis Anderson, that's like the big
Louis
Louis Anderson is like the substantial
over 5 part.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Everything else is like under 5, and that's it. So to me, like we talk about FUBU films on this
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
sometimes.
Right.
You know, meaning for us, by us, black. And the thing is, I don't know how much of it is the intent of the directors and the producers behind the movie, and how much of it is just Hollywood being like, well, if the film has a predominantly black cast, then it's a black film.
Do you think
Yeah.
Coming to America is FUBU?
No.
I
That's not
don't.
why.
I
It's
don't
not,
either.
right?
I don't
either.
either.
I don't either.
I
And
mean,
it doesn't even feel like you
It
don't
doesn't
even
feel.
think
because it doesn't feel like it was made for black people.
Not
It
at all.
It feel like we
Not
made
at
a
all.
comedy and it's just about a black man coming. You know what I'm saying? It was
the
like about an
director
African coming. in.
and the writers are white.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, like,
yes.
it's
yes.
like there are
But
black
John
people
Landis-
in the movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
John
He
Landis.
directed previous films.
He
Trading
directed
Places.
Right.
a lot of great films.
Yeah.
Trading Places, Animal
Beverly Hills Cop,
House.
the Thriller
Beverly Hills Cop.
video.
He did do the
Thriller
Thriller
video.
video. He
The
did
Thriller
the
video.
He did do the Thriller video.
Stop it.
He did Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting because I feel like when you look at this movie, is that there are definitely a lot of, you know what? I wouldn't even say there's a lot of black things in the movie. I feel like there's a lot of American and New York things in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like, which
yeah.
is
There is, but there is also black culture and
Yeah.
African American
true,
culture
true.
in the film. Like,
Yeah.
And it still doesn't feel like, because this is one of the things that we like to talk about, is that
Right.
when you watch movies, if it's all white cast or predominantly white cast, and they're talking about things pertaining to the white culture, nobody's sitting there going, oh, but this movie's only for white people.
Right.
Right.
It is expected to do well internationally.
Yeah.
It's expected to do well domestically. It's expected to do well across all demographics. But when it comes to films with a predominantly black cast, and this probably is true for predominantly Asian cast, you know, Hispanic cast, whatever, like, marketers go, oh, well, this is only going to appeal to that racial demographic, and white people are not going to want to see it, which is ridiculous.
I think there's a lot of forethought in this film to make the film palatable to white audiences.
I agree.
Yes. And it's also just like in it. I think it's the vehicle of like the plot of the film of just like an outsider coming to America in a black it shows the diversity in Queens, but it's like the black experience in America. And I think that outsiders like looking to the inside point of view or whatever is the white experience. You know what I mean? Like so I think it was just like, oh, I recognize this trope or that one, you know?
Because they definitely comment on, which I think Eddie's character and Arsenio's character comment on things that I guess could be considered black, but like just men in general. Like Arsenio definitely has that idea of just women should be one thing. Like
subservient,
he's like, oh, they just need a big booty. Whereas like Eddie says, I feel like it's almost on purpose to say, no, I need a woman who's like smart, who can challenge me, who can like do this thing, and it's like
who stimulates my mind as well as
my loins. But this movie also touches because they have the meeting where he first sees the woman, and it's the Miss Black Awareness rally. And it's so interesting to me that like, that was a thing, Miss Black Awareness. So I was like, they're referring to like black people in such a way.
I think that like I applaud that, but also the first scene is like 5 to 6 women in bikini clad.
Yeah, I was gonna say
like
when this movie got started, I was like,
the first sentence, I was just like, taking notes last night. The first sentence uttered by a woman in this film is, your royal penis is clean, your highness. So as much as like
being bathed by like naked women,
topless women, and
then a woman just comes out of
the woman who says this emerges from water where she has just cleaned a dick.
Right.
It's so funny. Me and James was talking about this movie yesterday. We kind of chatted earlier, and I was like, this movie, I'm not gonna get into it yet, but when it comes to the women overall, I feel like the women aren't necessarily represented correctly. Like the sister. Her sister is she's represented in the worst. She's literally just. I mean, if you were to say it in modern days, they treat her as a thought.
Yeah.
They do. They treat like they literally like she literally goes. She gives him a hand job like at the basketball game. Leaves him. Has sex with the friend.
Never talked about it again.
Never talked about.
She is literally just like, and then she gets mad because she realizes, oh, I'm with the poor one. It's like they do not even. They don't even justify why she. I don't know.
And then there's the whole run of like. The 10, like they go to the club the first time they're queens, and they sit across from 10 different women, all of which like represent the most like gross stereotypes,
which is done for the comedy purpose. But that's to me, that's like very like 80s comedies were like so all like all that, right? They're all just like men, like all male driven, and so all these men were just like, oh, like how awesome would it be to have. And like, let's make fun of crazy women, and also, how awesome would it be to have naked women like around us all the time?
Right.
You know?
Did you, James? Did you like the movie?
Yeah, we didn't actually say initial thoughts.
The movie. Oh my god, I loved the movie. Thought it was fantastic. I love Coming to America.
I love it. I think it's great, but here's the thing: like, there's sort of like watching it through the like it's the male gaze, and then like as a woman being like, well, what is this saying? But I think it's for Eddie Murphy to have, number one, that box office power, the freedom, because it's story by Eddie Murphy, even though it was written by like white men and directed by white men. This was his first film out after doing a bunch of like box office films that weren't what his voice was or what he wanted to do, and it was just like it wasn't 100%, and this was the first thing out of the gate, and I respect him so hard, and like the ability to play against himself, doing multiple roles, I just and it's just a great. I love it. I love it. Even for, I mean, it's flawed, but it's fantastic.
Okay.
Before you get started, Jerah, I think I'm with you actually.
The thing is, this is my thing. I own Coming to America, and the thing is, I loved it. And the thing is, I still think it's a great movie. But watching it this time, I just felt different. And maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, and now as an adult, I have probably more female friends than male friends.
Yeah.
So
it's
there
a
were
different
things.
time too.
Yeah, it was things I just saw immediately. Like I noticed the sister immediately. I noticed like even his main love interest. started off strong, but then somewhere in the middle, she became like a damsel in distress to me a little bit. Like it became she became like this.
Oh, of course.
Like, but it was like, but she started like they started off like she was smart, she was doing all stuff, but then all of a sudden they took it away and broke her down. It's like, but you just took away this strong black woman, and now we don't have any except for the queen, who still gets shut up sometimes by James Earl Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like there is no strong female character in this movie, and it was weird.
I'm equally, if not more, bothered by it than you, but I think
I think you're more bothered than him.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you might be more bothered.
I'm for sure more bothered than you. It's just giving you the BOD here.
I love that. Thank you.
But I do think that through simply a comedic lens, right? So I have to like boil it down just to that for my praise of the film. It did some things that hadn't been done before.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was it took advantage of a unique opportunity for a person of color in Hollywood. Given because this was sort of like the test, right? Like
it was.
If he fucks this up, then
no
one else, and he didn't. You know what I mean? So for that, I applaud the film, but the flaws are glaring.
Yes. I was mixed about it. I'm mixed still.
I'll be honest. Like I probably hadn't seen this movie for like a while. Like probably like 8 years maybe. And so like watching it this time, I was like, oh, like this is gonna sound so irreverent. I just was like, oh, like this movie is like not as funny as I thought it was. Like it, and I don't know if that was just because of my time, like just because of the times, and like maybe my tastes are changing or whatever. And like, but the pacing felt a little slow. Like I was like, the whole thing in the beginning, I was like, this is taking too long. Like, get to America already. Like honestly, when they got to America, I was like, oh right, okay, like because like the jokes that were happening, and that's because a lot of those jokes were like these like dick jokes and like the women and like that kind of stuff, and like how, and then I also like this is so ridiculous, but then I was also like thinking about like, oh man, like if they were this rich in Africa, like the reality is like the people who are this rich and kings in Africa are
warlords.
Right?
I just was thinking, I was like, how are they as a people? Because they didn't. But again, like this has probably less to do with the film, and more to do with like my 2015 sense of view, sensibilities. But I was thinking like, how are they as rulers? Like we're not. Like we're setting up the hilariousness of like, look how rich and powerful he is, and he doesn't want it. But since we spent so much time, and it was about 25 minutes until they got into New York.
Yeah.
So like, if we're going to spend 25 minutes there, then and we're supposed to be seeing his character too, then you also have to show me that he is a good person, like a sensible leader, and like it can't just be because he wants to marry somebody who he's in love with. Because if I really took a step back, I could be like, well, that's still selfish. It's not really like, you know what I mean? Like like in terms of like the romance, I get it. It's like he wants somebody, and like that there were like good stuff behind it. But then I was like, oh. Anyway, that being said, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I get you with that, but like, I just felt like that wasn't the point.
That wasn't the point.
I get that.
Which is right.
You know what I mean? Like it felt like they spent so much. First, I love that we don't get to, when we watch movies about Africa, we don't get to see people just walking around rich. Like,
exactly.
Exactly. That's not something that we get to see.
Right.
So, like,
which is what
being able to see that in the opening of this movie, it's like, that's great.
Yeah, and they had one scene. I'm not interrupting you, but they had one scene where he's talking to James Earl Jones, Eddie, and just a zebra, a real zebra just walks across screen. And I'm like, yo.
And there's two elephants.
Two real.
I love that. I love that. I did like that.
I got giraffes just checking them out. I was like, well, they're just going to have all these animals.
Crazy. But what's concerning, I think, like, I get your point, and what was concerning to me was like thinking about what would have been like in 1988 to watch this.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's the joke. Like there aren't hard jokes in the script, but the joke is just rich people are black, like black rich people. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
Like that's concerning.
That is true, though.
Yeah.
It's like it's.
Yeah. It didn't feel that way to me.
But
I guess I get that is part of it. Like,
it wasn't.
Black people are rich.
Right. You're saying that they weren't making the joke that it's funny because they're black, like black.
No,
people
it's
rich
like
and funny
they like. You know, like I liked it because it's like they have to make him an African prince in order for the story to work.
Right.
Like this, in order for the story to work, we in order for Eddie Murphy to be a rich prince that is coming to America, he has to be an African prince,
right.
and then in order for him to show that he is so fed up, they make it so extravagant, like to an extreme that is
being woken up by orchestra.
He gets his alarm clock is the sun
piece.
coming in. And then a very light orchestra, like that's like
fucking.
insane.
I got a question about
with
that
beautiful women waiting to throw rose petals at his feet.
With like it's almost like could you even believe that these like the for the storytelling to even work? It's like these women are broken down to a level where all they have to do is serve this man, and he is like, that is wrong, even though he doesn't say like. It's wrong for a woman to be taught this way. He kind of even says like, actually, that's kind of cool, you know?
But this is my thing. I'm thinking about opening scene. Natasha brought this up, and I feel like there's something I just don't understand the mechanics. Okay, when he's in the tub, right, and the woman I guess washes the royal penis.
The royal penis.
If you're sitting down, right, that's not a comfortable way to get. Like, how does she?
So you're
so you're trying to break down. You're trying to lodge.
What's the mechanics?
Logistics. Not the act. You're like, no, he should be standing.
My man, if you go back and watch the scene, though, she was technically underwater for like who knows how long.
First off, if you watch Mission Impossible,
are not.
We know 3 minutes. Humans can't do a lot of activity up to 3 minutes underwater while holding their breath. So this movie right now is starting off with false. All right, accuracy.
It's a joke.
Look, man, if you're going to watch someone's testicles, make sure the science works.
Oh, my God.
The science of washing balls.
If there was a movie where someone had to wash a vagina, the science needs to work. Respect the woman and make sure you can do the science right.
The science.
That's all I'm going to say. Okay,
what are you going to study at school? I'm the science of washing balls. Going to Stanford.
There's a science behind it.
There's a science. I'm going to figure it out.
Out. So I think, but do we all agree though that they purposely were trying to be like, yes, black people can be rich,
and on both sides because they have
and on both sides.
On both sides, so like they have the McDowell, like not McDonald's but McDowell, but also like the heir to the Soul Glow fortune is also in play.
Exactly,
so
there are a bunch of rich,
they
and on varying levels.
Yeah,
they're like
of affluence.
Like I feel like you don't see that now, or like even in movies. I was talking to James and I was like, man, we were flipping through Netflix and we came across a different world, and I'm like, man, you rarely see people of color in college.
Yeah,
right. Like like Dear White People is probably the most recent time I've seen it in film, and then
fantastic. I love that.
Oh yeah, it was great. And then A Different World was, when did that end? Like well over 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
And, I haven't seen like people, and things to see a family, like to see 3 different families.
Yeah,
like. One that's uber rich, one that's a working class rich, and then I guess the Sogo family. Like we really don't know how they got their money, but it's almost kind of like
they invented the Jerry curl.
Yeah, you know. And then you see how like snobby and rich they were, and they all had the curl and left the print on the couch. It was just it was just dripping wet. And I'm like, it's so crazy because that son, the Sogo son,
Eric LaSalle.
Yeah, he represents almost every snobby, I guess, white kid you would see in the movie. You know,
yeah.
He was just our version of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was cool to see like, oh, we have bad guys too, but we also have really good people, and we had both of those in one movie. Whereas I feel like you never see that all together.
Exactly.
We always have one or the other. You know,
there was such a huge diversity within a black film. So that's my thing. It's like the whole cast is black, but they're showing all these different characters, all these different.
Which was a huge plus for me. I think that's one of the reasons why I loved it, because like very rarely do you see a quote unquote black film that explores all of the shades and types that are true to life. It usually just like hones in on one particular section.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, what is there a more successful film with an all black cast? Like,
yes, it's recent. Straight Outta Compton is now.
Is it more successful?
Apparently, it was.
Well, yes. In terms of, you're right.
If
you don't adjust for inflation.
Yes.
But actually, it's not. It's not worldwide though.
Oh yeah, it didn't do well.
It didn't do well.
Didn't do well worldwide, and it's also couldn't be more specific to one particular sect of black people.
And that also was very offensive to women.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I won't watch it.
I understand why you didn't. I didn't want to see it, but then like the acting is very well.
But like, so straight out Compton, but any other? Can you think of? Because this is the thing that I was thinking about when I was watching this movie. I was like, oh my god, like, because even in that part, and we talked about it, maybe being problematic for women, but there were two. I was thinking that part where they're like sitting down and there are all these different women,
at the club,
and I was thinking about that, but I was also thinking about how this movie had to give the most roles, like under five to black
every
under five
in Hollywood in 1988 was in that.
It was like I'm looking at every woman. I'm like, how it must have just been like, how amazing for Eddie Murphy to have come this far, to be so powerful in the industry that he can be like, it's all going to be black women who are doing these roles. Right. And it was like, boom, one after the other, and I was like, that is like nobody else gets. People don't get to do that.
One of the Flower Petal girls.
Yeah.
I was like on IMDb. I'm like, I'm curious to see about these girls.
Yeah.
One of the girls' names, full SAG-AFTRA name, Feather.
Feather.
Whoa. I saw that.
Feather. And I was just like, what's up with Feather? Right, what's good? Yeah. And I could just imagine Feather getting that call, being just like, I got it, Ma. I got it.
I'm a flower girl.
This was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s first on-screen first role.
Yeah.
I mean, and his scene was cut, so he had no lines.
Yeah. Just sitting in the barber chair.
So he was just sitting in the barber chair. But I was literally, because I honestly, I was looking at that, and I was like, yo, that's where Cuba started?
Yeah.
I could do it.
Yeah,
for sure. She started like, it gives you hope.
It gives men hope, because none of the women from that film are like doing anything at the same level as the men from that film.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Samuel L. held up in McDowell's and is Samuel L. Jackson.
And he's like the same actor. Like do you know what I mean? Like in that scene, he's the same actor that he is.
Yeah. Samuel Jackson had he was also in a small role in another film that we
he had one that we've already done.
I feel like, or maybe not.
I know one of the things that helped shot him out was it was a Spike Lee movie where him and Halle Berry played crackheads together. What was it? Jungle Fever?
I think so.
I think it was.
It was
Jungle Fever.
Yeah. He was also in Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, when he died off camera.
Off camera.
But one of the Flower Girls was Fancy in the Jamie Foxx show. I mean, that's her character's name. Her name is Gabrielle, but like she was like the main girl on Jimmy Fox, and she was one of the Flower Girls.
Yeah, but that's not.
That's not.
Yeah, that's not Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, that's not Snakes on a Plane.
or Cuba Gooding for that. I mean, Cuba Gooding won an Oscar,
but he did Snow Dog, so.
And he did a Boat Trip.
Oh, wait, so what else did Lisa McDowell do? Do people know?
I didn't click on it, but like,
I actually she has like the thing that this is the thing.
Yeah,
I feel like, and I don't think this stuff is good. I feel like the thing that kind of sucks sometimes that happens to women of color, black women and Asian women in particular, is that they will get work, but it'll be on like police procedural where they're like the science whiz, and I feel like she actually
the nurse, the doctor, the victim.
Yeah, and I think she actually I need to look it up. I'm gonna cut my phone back on.
She's been in other stuff, but it doesn't seem like anything big. Like
I feel like she has a shot. Like she might be on a show. Yeah, she was a show. She might have been like a captain or something.
Like one episode.
Yeah,
and that's tough because it's like, I mean, to be truthfully honest, like just visually speaking, she's held up better than like Arsenio Hall. Like she still looks so much similar to how she looked in this movie. And I'm like, what is that? Was that 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy to me that like there was no role for her to get.
Yeah.
Like,
but that shows the power of this film to put women I mean, while their roles weren't scripted to my liking, but they were in it in a film, a major motion picture.
Yeah, because I mean, we're making the case for like leading roles, and so this film didn't do that for those women's careers.
No.
But I'm looking at her thing, and she, even though she was never like a major star, she's been working. Still working.
Oh,
so
100%.
It's like those type of roles like can get people into work, just being a working actor. Actors,
yeah, my argument is that like it's a very different slingshot for men and women of color now and then.
Right.
And I think that it's fantastic that this film sort of has those prominent male roles in it,
right.
and that they were able to make like lasting careers, like you said, like get like work, but great work.
Right.
It's fantastic, and I don't disregard that, but I also it begs the question of like, where are the women in that equation? Sort of why?
Right.
The why, right?
And like, well, I mean, I feel like the why might even be connected to how this movie was written, right? So like,
sure.
So like, you know, if are those the kinds of roles that are
desirable?
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no one's gonna get a script and they're gonna be like, well, especially if they've already done it in Coming to America,
right?
They're like,
because it's
more
complimentary. Like,
right.
It's not like Eddie who is the star and like the film is made around him.
Right.
You know, like as few films are made around for leading black men, even fewer are made for leading black women.
Yeah.
And the women of the time get the casting call and they see Eddie Murphy and they're like, oh man, the guy from Beverly Hills Cop, Saturday Night Live, anything he did, like it's almost like a team effort at that point. Where then if you go back and look at the focus of from the female's perspective, like, oh, this is my line. Oh, I have to be topless in this scene. Like those are other things. Like you have to wrestle those demons at another date. You sign the contract, you get the job, you pay the rent, and then you're like,
oh, well, I gotta do this.
But
that's also the thing that I guess a question that I guess it brings up a totally different question. I know that a lot of time, you know, as a black man, it's like a lot of my auditions are for like drug dealers or like bad things. But it's like, you know, you don't want to do, like, for instance, like the women in this movie. Eddie did write a movie where we had a lot of African American females in it, which is great. But also, it's like they weren't represented in the proper way. And I know, like, as a man, I'm always like, man, I want to be the dude selling drugs on screen because, like, that's already a bad experience. But you got to do it for money. You got to do it for rent. And then I feel like the women who are in this movie did it for the same reason. Like, I don't want to necessarily be like the sister. It's like I don't want to be like the hoe, if you will, but I want to make a movie.
Which is because, and to me, it's like the real problem is that you don't have enough variety of roles. So, like for instance, to me, I have no problem playing a drug dealer if it's one of the many roles that I get to go out for. If the only roles I get to go out for is that, then there's a huge problem with it. For women, I mean women of color, but also just women in general in the industry, since beauty and like how they look and how you know how it's constructed for characters for the male gaze, like it makes it so that all their roles are the love interest, the hot girl, the you know what I mean.
But it's also like what hue, right?
Right.
So like the shade of
it's true.
Like in this movie, that was a huge thing. That like the love interest, the beauty was the most light skinned.
And
like,
the sister was like,
and the sister was as dark as Sin, right?
But see, my thing is like, okay, let me ask you a question about that because I often battle with that because I always wonder where does that. I'm not going to call it competition or whatever, but where does that stem from? Because I know, like, as a darker skinned man, I always automatically look when I watch movies to see what shade. Yeah. If it's a black man or a black woman, I always automatically to see what shade that person is.
Sure.
But I feel like it's a thing in the community itself, the African American community, where it's like shades matter.
Oh,
but then
my grandmother had the brown paper bag test.
Right? There's a show on HBO coming out about that, like the Jack and Jill. People heard about the Jack and Jill like club or whatever, and it's a TV show coming about it. And I'm like, this movie and almost every rap video you watch always perpetuates like the light skinned chick or like the mixed.
The Straight Outta Compton casting notice.
Oh my goodness!
Oh
my god!
That casting notice.
Are you kidding me?
Good goodness!
So for people who don't know, do you want to?
Well, in this notice, he breaks down the hue of the girl and the role, and it was just like dark skinned girls, big booty, like extensions, and I mean, it was appalling.
I think he even said for the darker skinned women, it was like. Did he call him around the way? It was like it was a reference to like one was beautiful and then one was like I don't want to say hood rat or around the way girl, but it was like a word that he used and it was like it was
an equivalent.
Drastically different. And I was like, wow, this is. And my only question, the only reason I even bring it up is because when I watched this movie, I noticed instantly that his girlfriend was lighter skinned and the sister was darker skinned.
Yeah.
And my thing is, are things like this movie, for instance, is that helping perpetuate that stereotype of like just like not. Overtly, but just like
no, absolutely. Like, you don't even have to ask the question. Like, if you go and you look at that movie and everyone's like, and for seemingly no reason, he looks at her and says, "She is my bride. You know what I mean? Like,
because there's a lot of dark-skinned women in this movie.
I feel like
the mother, the sister,
right.
and the first queen, the first person
queen
that he was supposed to marry.
Right.
Yeah.
But he falls in love with the lighter skin, and
well, I don't think it's necessarily because she was light skin. I mean, she was supposed to be the one standing up to like.
Of course, but it's that's the casting.
That's the casting.
And the thing is, it's hard because like I'm light skinned, like I'm mixed, but like that's what I'm saying is like the thing it comes into our community because it was made a deal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Before the white the white majority of America, especially back then. I mean, it's like kind of like the whole house slave,
versus
field slave. You know what I mean? Like, it's like putting that upon, it's like, okay, well, we can tolerate a lighter skin. We can tolerate a mix. We'll tolerate that. And then dark skin, no. And then, so then that becomes internalized so that people are like, oh, and the thing is, it's just like, it's just pointing out more.
Hollywood is perpetuating a pre-existing problem.
Exactly.
So it is not creating it. It's a mirror to society of just like, this is what we value.
And I don't even think people are consciously being like, this person except Straight Outta Compton.
I was about to say.
Straight Outta Compton, they were like.
The entire casting behind the biggest all-black blockbuster in recent history was just like the black and the berry.
Right.
The dirty of the juice.
The dirty of the juice.
The dirty of the juice.
Nastier.
We don't want that nasty juice.
Gross.
And matter of
fact, you're right.
The jump. I'm not even going to talk about Straight Outta Compton because there's a scene in Straight Outta Compton. All right.
You ain't ruining it for me because I ain't going to see it.
This is a scene, and I think like we need to review this movie at one point. And it's a scene like the crazy orgy scene where they do the Bye Felicia, where you find out where Bye Felicia comes from.
Gotcha.
In that scene of like just women doing very hoe-like things, it is all dark-skinned women. Felicia is a woman who's my complexion. I'm like, that's the one y'all picked to kick out? I'm like, come on, Cube. Come on, brother. But anyway, that's another movie, and don't worry, I will come back to that movie.
I mean, it is a hard thing, right? This particular question. I was looking at a picture that was recently taken of me in bright sunlight, and I was looking at the picture, and I was looking at the picture, and I said, oh, I don't like this picture. And my nephew, who is 7 years old, sitting next to me, he was like, yeah, you look really dark in that picture. And I was like, that was literally none of the reasons that I had to like this picture.
Wow.
But I was like, I looked at, and I just wonder where that, and it made me think about being a kid and like the way we would like roast each other and like how like, you're darker than a match or like a lit match, or like
Black as night.
Black as night, all those things that would like come up, and like why is that a diss? Like, why is that a problem?
But just pull at that thread, and it goes so far.
It goes so deep.
It's like
that's house slave, like
I feel
field slave stuff.
Because my grandmother, for instance, she passed away recently, grandma. But my grandmother was very old. She was very old, and she was from the South. So like, she grew up as an indentured servant, if you will. I think my mom grew up picking cotton, but my grandmother, for instance, valued skin color very much so. Because my grandmother was a very, very dark-skinned woman. So anytime, like, say you were, I don't know, like I have cousins who are lighter. I have one who's like light skinned with like blue eyes. Yeah. And like we all knew this is the favorite. You know what I'm saying? Then we had another one who was very fair skin, second favorite. And then it went down based on color. And I think as she got later in life, it wasn't because that like she just thought light skin was better. I just think it was that thing of she grew up knowing that she was told her skin wasn't good enough. Right. So like she had her sisters who, one of them passed away as well. Her name was Aunt Beauty. Aunt Beauty was the fairest skinned sister out of the three. Wow. And so like Aunt Beauty, her name was Aunt Beauty, and my grandma's name was Punk. So that's what they called her, Punk.
Why?
Wow.
Because I mean, if you saw like younger pictures of her, my grandma was very, very dark, very, very dark, very, very stocky.
Right.
Aunt Beauty was like light skin, like very thin, long hair. So it's like I feel like that, and I'm trying to defend it, but like I feel like that being brought up, like you said, Braylock, is like you're brought up saying, "Oh, you're mixed. I can tolerate this."
Right.
Well, where are you from? Like my grandma was like, and I think like we just keep that going, especially with the paper bag test and all that other stuff.
But I think the subtext of that is that it's not just face value like aesthetics, like you're beautiful. It's that the lighter you are, the more the chances are you have more access to the community that you're desperately trying to assimilate into.
Exactly.
So it's that I have this passport, and the lighter I am, I can break free. So it's almost just like
the more you can
Great White Hope. Yeah, it's just like the more you can pass. Like Lena Horne, when she first started, she was performing as white, right?
Yeah.
And then she came out as black.
Yeah.
And then it was just like people had to wrestle with that, like, oh, this is acceptable. And this is as far as we'll go, you know?
But what about the thing of supporting ourselves? Like, and it's something I just realized recently. Is like, for instance, when people grew up in the hood or whatever, like I know my first instinct, my mom's first instinct was, oh, you're older, we got to get out of here. And it's because like you're trying to get to that community that is the white people community that's like, you know, the yards, the grass. But I feel like no one, once they make it, stays to help clean up. You know, like for instance, and I feel like that's how we have all these neighborhoods where blacks are kicked out and now it's gentrified because everyone who made money just left. And they just left the people who couldn't afford to come with them instead of like just staying to fix it up, to tell kids that, hey, your skin color doesn't really be proud of your dark, be proud of your light skin, you know?
All right, y'all, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll talk about our sponsor, then we'll get back to the show. You got one?
No, I'm talking for you. I'm trying to start you.
Okay.
Hey, James, how old is your razor?
Yo, my razor is so old.
How old was it?
It has...
I quit. I'm done. You can't even start the commercial off right.
I can't.
This is why Jonathan can never not be here. God.
Wait, are we actually starting? No, I wasn't sure if we were.
I mean, we should start the commercial.
Okay,
I
all
hope
right.
so.
No, yeah, okay, we're good. I wasn't sure if you were ready.
Yeah, man, let's record the... All right, let's start. All right. Commercial, take 3. Hey, James, how old is your razor?
Yo, man, my razor is so old.
How old is it?
It remembers when the whole world was like Pangea.
What is What? What is Pangea? Yo, oh, good goodness. Good goodness. Hey, guys, man, we got a sponsor today. Okay, Dollar Shave Club.
Dollar Shave Club, that's right.
Hey, and listen, y'all gotta mess with Dollar Shave Club because DollarShaveClub.com changed everything. James' face used to be all scraggly and he had a beard everywhere, but it changed when we got this sponsor because they gave us razors, y'all.
You're doing this all wrong. Everybody knows I have a baby face, okay? I have a baby face. But you know what Dollar Shave Club was able to do?
What?
I was able to make sure that my mustache and my goatee was all nice and trim.
I mean, listen, that's true, man, because with Dollar Shave Club, you can get a fresh blade every time you shave.
Yo, every time?
Every time you shave.
Man.
I mean, Dollar Shave Club is so good. The razors are so good that millions of guys have joined up.
Yo. The billion-dollar razor corporations must be freaking out right now.
Oh, man, you know they tripping, man. You know them things be like $20 just to get a refreshed blade. You know what I'm saying? Not even a new blade, a refreshed blade.
Yeah, man. I'm never gonna go back to squeezing weeks and weeks of shaves out of a disgusting old gritty blade that remembers Pangea.
No, what is Oh my goodness. I mean, listen, y'all. It's such a luxury, and it's only a third of the price of those like fancy, schmancy, expensive, crappy blades you get in regular stores.
That is right. A third of the price. Once again, the other billion-dollar shave corporations are just freaking out right now, okay? So you know what?
What?
Where they got to go to get that Dollar Shave Club?
I mean, listen, man. To join Dollar Shave Club, just go right now to dollarshave.com, all right, /black.
Okay, so just to say that one more time, because we got to make sure we get club in
you want to make sure
Dollar
you get
Shave,
it? Okay.
Dollar Shave Club.
For all the people listening at home, is dollarshaveclub.com /black. When you do that, they know that you guys listen to our show, that we sent y'all there, and that you guys care about your skin, fellas.
Yes.
Fellas, don't you want the ladies to be like, hey, look at your face?
Yes. Don't you want the ladies to be like, let me just caress your face real quick. Let me just
rub my hand down your face without getting scratched up.
Caress it real quick, though.
And ladies, look at your man and be like, hey, you know what? When you don't shave properly and I have to kiss you, your scragglies cut my upper lip, and you don't want your lip to get cut up.
And you know what? Here's another thing. Dollar Shave Club, though. It's a Dollar Shave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they got razors for like all parts? Like if I got hairy legs?
Oh, listen, brother. Listen, they have an assortment of razors.
An assortment of razors?
An assortment of razors. You can shave your face. You can shave your chest. You can shave your armpits. You can shave your legs. You can shave your you know what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm talking
about. I know what you're talking about. You
Yeah.
Your personal area. Your personal area. That's the personal area we were talking about. It's really shame. But don't forget, DollarShave.com/black. Go support it. Go get them. Shave your face. Look neat. Do it for the ladies.
Forget about Pangea.
What the hell is Pangea?
The other thing that I want to just bring up, because we're talking about passing, and it's such a huge thing in the movie, so we have to, hair.
Yes, hair is so important.
And now I know, hair, so Natasha, I mean, we have to talk about hair with you because, I mean, first of all, as men, we don't have to deal with it as much. I know Gerard jokes with me a lot. He's like, "Oh, you got the good hair."
I mean,
you got the good hair. He's like always upset. Like anytime, it's like,
his hair
bounces,
for God's sake, yo.
girls like you because you got the good hair.
Oh my
God. But like, so in this whole movie, so for people who haven't seen this movie, there's this whole thing, Soul Glow, right? Which is like this Jerry curl product, like this hairspray they put in your hair, and it's like tripping wet. So they have like this scene where the whole Jerry curl family, Soul Glow family, is sitting on a couch, and when they get up, there's this huge
the spots.
There's these huge greasy spots on the couch, and it was funny because I was thinking about the fact that there were probably a lot of white people who were watching this movie who were like, oh, like they had to learn about
what it was. Yeah.
You know, they had to learn about something that was not, it wasn't in their culture, and so they didn't understand that there was this huge culture, especially for black women, like almost, exclusively black women, that they have to change their hair to make it look passable, to make it look good, because the way that we wear our natural hair doesn't look right. It doesn't look presentable.
But that's changing now, though. I feel like black women are wearing.
Is it?
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
No, for real though. I want to ask because like this is.
Well, I have two thoughts. One, in the film, the way the men's hair are treated, it's much better, right? So there's a scene in the barbershop where the barber is just like, "What do you want done?" And Eddie's like, "I want that." He points to the Jerry curl.
Yes.
And all the barber does is cut off his ponytail. He's like, and he says in the film, your hair is natural. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I like how you wear your hair.
I like how you wear your hair, right?
Yes,
so that's the praise of it.
Exactly.
But every woman in the film,
it doesn't get the same.
It doesn't get the same treatment. So there's an imbalance, and the same with just like, and not to go too far back, but just like Lisa McDowell's character chooses the darker skinned, natural haired man as opposed to the light skinned Jerry curl man, right?
Yeah.
So there's like there's a difference in what this willing is putting forward as acceptable.
Right.
As like, this is what we're ready for. Let's take this as a step, as opposed to like the overall sort of like, let's look at the other half of that.
Do you guys think this movie would have a different feel or impact if the actresses playing the sisters were reversed? It's instead of.
I think we would be talking about something else, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be talking about it in the same way.
Because even it's so funny. Even when you just said that, my mind immediately went, well, but Lisa McDowell does have a more eloquent kind of her personality, and then I'm like, why am I thinking that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, am I thinking that just because like I am used to a fair skin, light skin, colored woman with like kind of. I mean, she had like kind of curls, but I feel like her hair was it permed a little bit?
It was permed.
Yeah.
And so like it's not like it wasn't like the first queen.
Hey, nothing but what did he say? What did Eddie say? Ain't nothing but a you the perm. What did he say? Like in the middle, he just shot.
Ain't nothing but
ain't nothing but you the perm. And I was like, what? What are you talking about, Eddie?
What are you talking?
Yeah. So,
no. But I think hair currently, and it grieves me ever so slightly to talk about it as a woman because like fuck it. But if we're going to talk about hair, I think it's become more acceptable as far as just like being able to, because I stopped perming my hair. Has it been 10 years? 10, maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe right
and
after.
Your hair looks great.
Oh, thank you. No big deal. But I just did a DNA, guys. I just did an Ancestry.com DNA test.
Oh, yes.
And I am 32% European.
Okay, girl.
Which is like and it's a whole thing. But my mom doesn't like know who her dad is,
right?
And is very light skinned, to the point where the whole family's just like, who you mixed with. And my mom's just maintained like, oh, I'm 100% black, 100%. And I took this test and I was just like, Mom, we gotta talk. So the whole family's taking it, but
my uncle tried to get my family a ticket. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
No,
what?
yeah,
I don't need to know that. I don't need to know none of that. I don't need to know none of that.
I was just talking about this, and I feel the exact same way. I don't want to.
It's fantastic. Even the 65% of me that is African, it was fantastic.
Do you know where? Did it tell you?
West Coast, Ivory Coast, Ghana.
That's awesome.
It was definitely like triangle trade, like central.
How long does it take?
It takes a little bit. It takes like 6 to 8 weeks.
But see,
that's not bad. I think it was like 6 to 8 years.
No, it took me 8 years. I took the test 8 years.
I like that.
Now I know.
Even like, okay, so like Eddie Murphy's from this like fake African country, right? But like, they make it in the world that other people know what that country is, and it's not like
it's accessible.
And nobody's like, he's like, I'm Prince from Africa, and whenever people find out, nobody's like, so, or like, what, where, who, what, like nobody's questioning it, and it just reminds me of like growing up. I remember I had to do we had to do like this project where it's like, where are you from, and like you had to do like a whole thing like to talk about the country that your ancestors are from, right? And so I chose Italy, because my mom is Italian and Irish, and my dad is black, and I don't know what country.
What that is.
So I was like, so I chose Italy. We grew up, my grandma lived near me. She had Italian food, whatever. Okay, so we do the project, and when we had to like tell the teacher what countries we were going to do. And when I said Italy, my teacher was like, why are you doing Italy? And I was like, well, my mom is Italian and I'm Italian. And he was like, well, a lot of people are doing Italy.
Are you kidding?
So like you should do, so why don't you do like the other part of you? And I was like,
you look at him right in the face and be like, tell me what the other part is. Say it. Say it to tell me what that other part is right now.
I was like, and this is meanwhile I'm in like 7th grade, right?
So I was
like, well, I was like, but I don't know what country that is. And then I was like, I don't know, like my dad is African American and we don't know like what part of Africa we're from. And he was like, well, you can just like choose a country.
That is
you can just choose a country,
and
that'll be the one that you're from.
You should have done
in 7th grade. Even in 7th grade, I really, honestly, like race was not that big of like. So much racist stuff happened to me that I didn't care. Like it went over my head and stuff like that. But I remember in that moment being like, just choose what
you should have done Zamunda.
Bro, are you serious?
Like
I told my mom, and my mom was so upset.
As she should have been.
And I think probably called and talked to the teacher. But like, I remember being like, why can't I do Italy? Like, why do all these other kids?
Tell one of them to do some other country.
Tell one of them to do one of their other, because they know what other countries they're from. Like, if they're like 18% Croatian or whatever, like let them do that. Like, I don't know. I'm just gonna choose an African country.
That's insane.
So that was always the part. Because like I remember people would be like, yeah, what? I remember kids in school would be like, what part of Africa are you from? Do you know? I'm like, and I think there was a time where I started just making stuff. I was like, I think Kenya. I would just be like, maybe Ethiopia.
Because
I don't know.
Supposed to know.
Because I'm supposed to know, and I also want to feel like I'm a part of something.
Yes.
You
That's
know?
what motivated me to take this test.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where are you from? That show on TLC, and everyone's like going. I'm like, I want to dig. And I got as far as the Emancipation Proclamation, at which point my trees lopped off because of slavery.
Right.
But I have every intent to, I talked to my dad about this, of going to North Carolina, where a lot of my people are from, going through the slave records there to try to get a really, like a good foothold on it. And, it's important to me. Yeah. And that's why I took the test. And now I can say, like, what part of Africa are you from? Say Ivory Coast. Ghana. Like, that's where my people are from. Yeah. But also now, now I'm like a black Nancy Drew, because I'm like 32% European. Yeah.
Like, what's that about?
I know. What's that about? What's that about?
I mean, we kind of know.
We can pull it down there.
We definitely know what that is.
We definitely know what that is.
Okay. We know what that is. We can pull at that thread.
There's one thing I want to talk about before we move on.
Yeah, me too.
I want to talk about the impact of Eddie Murphy in this film in particular. I know we reviewed Eddie before we did Beverly Hills Cop, but I feel like you pointed it out, Natasha.
This is his height, though.
And this is a different Eddie, though. This is an Eddie.
This is the zenith of his career. At 27, by the way. He's 27.
27.
And it's that, like, mega star.
He was like, to me, this movie showed that he was a proud black man. Like, the one thing I had a problem with in Beverly Hills Cop is I felt like they didn't make him desirable.
Right.
Like, not saying every person has to be, but I'm like, he wasn't in this movie. And then Boomerang came after this, which, like, he made to be a sex symbol.
Yeah.
This movie showed that he's like, I can show that a black man can be sensitive. We can have money. We can want a queen that is just as strong as we are. And we're not scared to do whatever it takes to get her. You know what I'm saying? To me, it showed those things which just never existed. And it's interesting to me thinking back to it now. It's like, I can't imagine I'm like 29 now. I can't imagine seeing this in the 80s. Like, and he's in New York at the height of the drug situation in New York. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's at the height of when people are like cracked out, killing each other, and he's showing that black people can be rich.
Right.
The black woman is in charge. Like, his love interest is in charge of the restaurant. She's doing speeches to the community, and he is royalty.
He's royalty.
He's royalty.
He, like they say, he got his own money. The boy's got his own money.
Right.
You know, like, and to me, the fact that Eddie did this, and I'm pretty sure someone said to him, "Hey man, you want to do this? We should probably do Beverly Hills Cop 2 right now." You know, because it took him like a while to make that sequel. It was
I
like
think he did Beverly Hills Cop 2.
before this. Before this,
He did all three.
I know, but he do Beverly
No,
Hills
I
Cop
think
2 before this.
Beverly Hills
3
Cop
was
came out. 3 was after this, but Beverly
was
Hills
after
Cop
this.
2 was
2
before this.
But I'm like, I feel like someone probably was like, do this other movie. He was like, no, I want to do this movie about this black prince coming to America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Imagine what his agent was like, nigga, what you want?
Honestly, though, I think at that point they were like, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, you could do whatever you want.
I mean,
He's
just
boxed off his goal.
just understand, just for people to understand, like 48 Hours was his first film.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what we have to understand is, like, this doesn't happen anymore. Like,
Right.
it happened
Yeah.
to, like, him and, like, Tom Cruise. Like,
Right.
he came out and, like, boom,
Hit.
48 Hours, huge hit.
Right.
Beverly Hills Cop was bigger than that.
Right.
And then,
they trusted the keys to that movie to him
Right.
because
Yeah.
he had carried SNL on his back.
and then he carried
Sure.
he had carried
for
SNL
six seasons.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
And thinking about that though, what he does in this movie, what he and Arsenio Hall and Rick Baker do in this movie that I love is that they transform like so.
So many. Yeah, let's talk about
And
the
it's
characters.
like, and it's and I think that like on top of all of that, it's like you would absolutely greenlight a movie where Eddie Murphy says like, in this movie I'm also going to play like
Jewish
5 other people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is
Like,
his SNL, like, letting out his, like, he's like, oh, by the way, like, this is why I was the king of SNL for 5-6 years. You know, and yeah, so he plays the barbershop
scene
guy.
was so good.
He plays a Jewish man.
Yeah.
So
he plays the singer too.
The lead
He
singer of
plays the lead
Sexual
singer.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Sexual chocolate.
I know.
Sexual
When he
chocolate.
started, I was like, wait, is that Eddie?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, you could hear.
Yeah.
that's you don't know it until
Singing
he starts
Greatest
singing.
Love of
Like
All.
it doesn't
Yeah.
look like him.
It doesn't
but
look
then
like him
you-
at all.
And then he
doesn't.
sings, and you're like,
Oh,
right.
that's him.
Yeah. And Arsenio Hall was the other guy in the barbershop. And
One of the ugly women at the bar.
Yeah.
One of the ugly women at the bar. I was like, oh my God.
The
Black Men in Drag. It's
Black
a
Men in
nice-
Black Men in Drag.
Black Men in Drag,
the
man.
leader, the guy who,
And then he was,
like the Reverend.
he was the Reverend.
The Reverend.
He was the Reverend.
Yeah.
You probably know him from That's Your Mama. Like that.
It's so funny.
Everything they did in there was
love
so
the
good.
Lord.
I
I
love the
love the
Lord.
Lord.
Love the
The
Lord.
Lord is good. And the thing is, like, the whole time he is one of those shiesty, like in DC, in the Southeast. He probably doesn't listen. I don't care. The Reverend of my church was super shiesty. Like, the Reverend of my church definitely had a bunch of women working there.
We calling you out, Reverend.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man, he was
We
shady.
calling you
He
out.
used to. I'm gonna tell you how shady he was.
Uh-oh.
He used to give out bootleg DVDs.
Oh,
Come
why?
A Reverend of a
For what
church?
purpose?
No, no,
Come
for what
on.
purpose?
For
Like-
what
like,
purpose but to besmirch
Yo.
the race?
Yo.
For what other reason?
He used to give out he had
Oh,
a bootleg, he had a copier at his
my
house.
God.
And the
What?
thing is, the church, he owned the Reverend owned the entire block. So his house was at the end of the corner. The church didn't have a gate around it. His house had a gate.
Come on.
His house was
Come
brick.
on.
You know what? My pastor might have been a drug dealer, y'all. I'm thinking about it right now. He owned the whole
Oh,
block.
snap. Your pastor was a straight up
Was a
drug
drug
And he
dealer.
literally would do stuff like, I mean, when I say there were women working in that church, the sisters is what,
my
the
God.
sisters, like, Sister Jasmine, could you come on up? And then she would just scoot on up, and they always had on like I don't know if they were like officially like pencil skirts, but they were like they were cute.
I'm uncomfortable.
I'm
trying to keep it real.
I'm
trying to like that Reverend that Arsenio Hall was.
That
exists.
Yes,
it exists.
There's so many snake oil salesmen. Like there's just like it's a trope, and he was playing. And I think what I love about that scene in particular, I feel like white audience was seeing Eddie play this preacher, and it was funny because it was just like he's sort of like he's like going against like the expectation, right? He's subverting expectations of a preacher, period. Yeah. But black audience is saying like, that's my preacher. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It was like a window into a culture that they were not familiar with,
for sure.
and being like, but this is for you still.
Yeah, this is
because
for you
still. you have like just like we watch like your culture, you can watch our culture, and guess what? Still be entertained.
Yeah.
We reviewed Barbershop, and I remember Barbershop episode like didn't get the movie a greatest view, but I remember like we said like how important the barbershop is. So in this scene, in the barbershop scene, which everyone remembers, and they are talking about Muhammad Ali.
Yes,
you know,
Cassius Clay,
Muhammad Ali. And the thing is, I feel like in a barbershop, it is that thing. It's such a big thing where like someone says something controversial. He beat Joe Louis. Is that something about Rocky Mariano? Like, there they go.
I mean,
there they go.
Those the like.
What's his friend's name? Was just in the corner like
smiling like he's got the funniest. Rachel Natasha sat in this chair. He said, "How old is he?" He's like, 132 years old when he fought. I'm like, yo, that makes
he's 73. He was 76. He was 73 when he hit him.
Those 8 minutes or however long that they spend in the barbershop is the entire 2-hour movie.
It's
is
fantastic.
Oh, it is.
like that.
It is like it shows you go there to be welcome. Like Natasha, like you said, like when they cut off the ponytail,
right?
He lets him know that it's okay for you to rock your hair how you want. So he gets that comfort. You get to see the jokes of like everyone can be made fun of here. They make fun of the owner when they're like they make fun of Joe Louis.
Yeah.
So it shows that you can do whatever you want. You know,
yeah.
It gave you that comfort.
And then the artistry, and like that it takes to act with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I think this is sort of what frustrates me in general with like the lack of respect that comedy gets at the Oscars.
Makes sense.
Man. Eddie Murphy never got nominated for any of these movies.
Never.
He only got nominated for Dreamgirls.
For Dreamgirls.
And lost. But
because he did Norbert, and they were like, "Oh, it had the Norbert effect or whatever."
Yeah.
But
he was mad about that.
But
yeah, no
the
respect
talent
for comedy.
that scene alone.
Yeah.
I think it's a masterclass in comedy.
Yeah.
Because he's the timing that it takes, and he's like acting with the tennis ball on his string for his eye line.
Yeah. Yep.
And then goes around and does the reverse.
Which is crazy.
His rendition of the Jewish man was like really
respectful and on point and like.
Yeah, he just did it really well.
I would even say, and maybe this is, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would even say in Norbit when he plays like the old Chinese man, like it's not him.
It wasn't a
He's
stereotype.
not trying to play a caricature. Right. He's just trying to play a person, and I think that like his ability to do that it's insane.
So how do I feel about him being in whiteface?
Well, so him being the reason that I think it's different than Norbit though is because there was a whole lineage of Jewish comedians being in blackface.
Yes, very true.
And making and that point, and the point of being in blackface, like it was an insidious. You know what I mean? Like it was like we're one not going to let black people come up here, and two we're going to make fun of black people.
Yeah.
Whereas for him being the Jewish man, it wasn't to me. It didn't feel like I don't know. I mean, we could ask people. You know, maybe some of our listeners. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are Jewish. Like. I wonder if they felt offended by it, but I don't. To me, he was not doing it to be offensive.
Not at all.
But it was a little bit of like, oh, you guys, if you guys get to do blackface, we definitely get to do whiteface.
Here we go.
Here's why I appreciate it. Like when I'm teaching students or coaching, you always get that student that wants to like do the thing that's so other and comes across very offensive.
Right.
And I always say that like if your joke cannot stand by itself. Without the affectation of whatever voice you're trying to do, then it's not inherently funny, right? And it needs that sort of racist sort of like affectation for it to be funny. Then it's not funny
because that means that what the funny thing is.
The funny thing is
the affectation.
Is the affectation. And in this scene, that it's funny with or without him being in like in makeup. It's inherently funny.
Yep.
And the context of Queens, 1988, barbershops look like that, right? Yeah. So it was out of respect to like being accurate to the times and also respectful to who he was impersonating.
Right.
So
and he could do it.
And he could do it.
Like, it was like he did it so well.
Do it.
Yeah.
Like that's what I respect about it. Like and maybe like I just found out that like of that 35% of being European, 21% that is European Jewish. So Belarus, Poland, are Israel. So if my fellow brother and sisters disagree, feel free to disagree. But 21% of me is just like on board. I think it's completely fine, and I thought it was fantastic.
I mean, I would love if people tweeted and I'm just curious because I know Nick Cannon recently, not comparing him to Eddie Murphy at all, but he did whiteface for like whatever reason, forgot what it was. It was for like he was trying to prove some point. It was like for Nickelodeon or something. I remember he got crucified for it, and he didn't make a weird voice or anything. He just was
Nick Cannon. I remember that,
and he just got crucified for just doing it. And I'm wondering, like, would Eddie be able to do this now?
Well, everyone got mad at Norbit for a lot of reasons.
People are mad at Norbit.
I know, and there are a lot of problems with Norbit, right? But like but that is one of them, though. Like it's now you cannot play another race.
You got to do it for a point. I don't know.
You have to do it in the same way, right? Yeah. You have the text that you're going to be doing, the script, the photo, whatever. And I think that's a stretch of like trying to make a point because you can only look. It has to be inherently funny.
Yeah.
And it has to stand. It has to have legs and cannot rely on the impersonation. Because then it is racist.
Then it is racist.
Point blank.
But that being said, like I remember, Millionaire had his music video "Evening News," and he dressed up in whiteface to like play a character like a news report.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it was like very much like the song is about race, right? Sure. So like to me, he was doing that, being provocative for a reason,
right?
And I remember my roommate at the time, who was white, was like this is to me it's offensive, and I don't understand why he's allowed to do that. And we had a very very heated conversation about race because I was like, well, he's doing it for a point. Like this is a point,
right.
And also like. To me, I don't care. I just don't. I'll say it like, you cannot compare a black person being in whiteface to a white person being in blackface. It is just not comparable.
Yeah.
The history.
The cultural undertones of that choice.
It's just not. It's not
too
there.
Far-reaching.
So and I understand if somebody's like, if there is a conversation to be had, to me that conversation pretty much needs to start within the community and not really outside of the community. But I just like, to me, whenever I hear somebody like a white person being like, well, how come you get to be in whiteface and I don't get to be in blackface? That's not fair. Like, if that is what you're coming from, then I'm just like, you need to shut it down. You honestly, you need to shut it down and you need to go home because we're not. This isn't like a racial tit for tat thing.
The person making that argument also is just like, why can't I use?
Why
the
can't
N-word?
I do it? Yeah. Why can't I use the N-word?
That's the same person making.
If you get to say it, then I should get to say it. It's like no.
It shows a complete lack of understanding,
right,
just like the historical ramifications of being in blackface.
So anyway, but that's wait, is it time? Oh man.
So we didn't even get to
it's something.
No, but it's so we're gonna. Wait, first, let's just say, like maybe the thing that we liked about this movie the most.
Oh yeah.
What was your favorite part?
Oh, do we want to start with me?
Sure.
Oh, it's hard now. I mean, let me see if I wrote it down. I probably didn't. Oh no, I did. I've already kind of talked about it, but I just think the work that. The makeup work and then the different portrayal of the characters that Eddie and Arsenio do. Like, I feel like it's hard to pinpoint a moment because I feel like they're all so good. You know?
Yeah.
If I had to pick one specific favorite part, I mean, like the sweeping opening, like where it goes straight from the Paramount logo into like suddenly.
Yeah, it's like a fairy tale.
It's
a fairy tale.
I love that. Like I feel like I want to celebrate that moment, but like as far as like the comedy of the movie, like it's the changing of the characters. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Natasha, what about you?
Oh, I have so many. I love the detail with which the African kingdom of Zamunda is created.
Yes.
Particularly the like African dance sequence.
Yes.
Oh my God! How do we
athletic? It's athletic.
It is
it's
amazing.
Powerful. I get chills watching it.
And this is a straight shot.
It's a
You're just
straight
looking at
one
it,
take.
you know?
It's amazing.
And it's amazing.
And they let it go
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
They let it go on.
I was like, oh, they let this go on.
They let it go on.
They're like, they made sure, like, no, you're
Right.
going to sit
You're gonna
and
see
you're going
it.
to watch and you're going to be entertained.
Zamunda's not real, but African dance is fully real.
And the thing is, now that you're bringing it up, like I feel like the dancers, if you look at the woman in the middle, they're looking in the lens.
Oh,
it's like we're doing this
for
to
you.
This is like you.
Yeah.
And do you feel like I had a question about that moment? Do you feel like there's humor to be had in like when they show the faces of people watching and they're just like stoic,
Stoic? Yeah.
Stoic.
like not moving at all. By
Yeah.
It is funny in the context of, like, this is his man's like wedding. And
Yeah,
he's
wedding
like,
announcement.
They're just watching this, like it's like so over the top and a lot. Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
That's great.
That moment sticks out to me.
Oh,
and
I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah, the barbers in every
And the
barbershop
barbershop.
scene.
I actually like a lot. I mean, this movie is quotable. Like, I mean, to be loved. Like, it's just so much. There's so much you can do. But I think the unsung hero of this movie is the landlord. The landlord in this movie just represents what it was to be like a black man
Frankie
probably at that
Faison
time.
kills.
And there's two things he says, like the whole introduction to the landlord when he's like, hey, he's like, can you hear me? You conscious? Always fun. Like he literally shits on this dude. Oh, he's doing a falling down the stairs, and he just steps over him and goes up, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a real shithole. It's a one-room apartment facing a brick wall. You spin it out to a blind man, and they open the door, and it's just like blood. Everything on the wall.
But he Jeffersons that, right? He moves on up because by the end he's in the hot tub with a cigar,
like just hanging out, like
just
fearless.
Hanging out. Come on in.
Like I think he was. I love him.
My favorite part is James Earl Jones goes, "You are not Akeem," and he's just like, "I know."
With the cigar,
I know.
in the jacuzzi. Like, I know.
Fantastic.
Oh my God!
Putting a cigar in his mouth.
Fantastic.
So first of all, I do have to. James Earl Jones is amazing in this
he's so
movie.
good.
He's so good, and he's so funny.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the beginning, like he has all these like these like timing stuff in the beginning where I was like, man, this dude's nailing the comedy. And of
great.
course, like who else could be that regal? Like I'm like, yeah, obviously that's a king.
Still on Broadway.
And he became the Lion King. You know, he was Mufasa.
Mufasa.
He was Mufasa like a couple of years later, right? But I got to give it up for John Amos, who plays McDowell.
Yes.
Because that scene, I remember like the scene where he finds out that he knows that Eddie's the prince, and so he's trying to get Eddie to stay, and he's like, hold up one second, and then he like runs to the door, and he opens the door, and then he just shuts the door, and then he comes back, and then he's like falling. I was like, this guy's giving a brilliant, like, physical comedic performance.
He had a good emotional moment too.
A great emotional moment in that same scene. I was like, this dude was killing it.
Fantastic.
And I'm like, I know he's a working actor. I've seen him a lot of times. Like, but like, it's to me that was one of the reasons Coming to America was so great, is giving these people these opportunities to like really do more and like more be and not just be like some stereotypical black, you know. And he got to be an upper middle class person who then also had got the scenes to be like, one day you'll get to have a house like this, you know? And then also these scenes are like, oh my God, this person's royalty, like, you know.
He also had like the best arc, now that you bring him up, because he went from being like just so about money until when, I guess it's up for debate, but whether or not James Earl Jones, when he spoke to the daughter, when we didn't see it, whether he told her just to go to, you know, Zamunda or whatever he did, and we think that James Earl like disrespected her. When he comes to his daughter's defense so quick, like he went from being like, oh, I want to push you, I want to push you. He's like, hey. Like, he just snaps to a dad. Hey, man.
1 million, 2 million? I don't want your
money.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And the thing that's so strong because they hype up how much he cares about money.
Right.
And then with those, I mean, even today, if someone offered you $3 million.
But the thing was that he cared about money,
but only because he wanted his
best.
daughter to have the
Yes.
best.
Yes.
He cared about money because he wanted them to be comfortable.
Yes.
He cared about her marrying somebody rich. Because it was misguided, but he wanted it so that she would have she would have to struggle like he and his wife, who passed away in the film, had to struggle.
Right.
And you can tell that is where that concern from him comes from. Like,
but
you can
there's a
tell in
tinge
his
of
red-
like selfish because like, the last shot of them like after it's revealed it's Lisa McDowell in the giant pink wedding dress, like his face is just a satisfied smirk of like this is ours.
He's happy about it.
He's happy about it.
He's definitely happy about it.
He's not. Yeah.
All right, it's time for the swirl.
All right, so Natasha, what the swirl is? Every
Jerah,
episode,
you have to explain it.
Every episode, I like to. No, this is the thing. I feel like I need to clarify this every time I do
You
it.
do because we've been getting some Twitter hate.
Every time I do it. So
Mad hate.
in
Jonathan,
major,
for the record, is covering his eyes right now.
in major motion pictures, a black man usually never has sex with a white woman on screen because unless it's about his race. So the reason I do the swirl is because until we get to a point where a black man can have sex with a white woman,
I heard
and
this
it's
on a
not,
previous podcast.
and
I have
it's-
some thoughts.
but it's not about his race. But it's like it's just to me, it's like we get to a point where it's like just two people having sex. It could be in my mind, it could be a black woman, Asian man. It could be. I'm just using a white woman and a black man.
That being said, and then this is where I have to come to Jerah's defense. That being said, there is more of a taboo for black men having sex with white women than there is for an Asian man having sex with a black woman, or for a white, or even for a white woman having sex with a black man.
Right.
There is a
and the non-existent connection of black women with white men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like is not even a percentage point. It's like unless
Unless you're Shonda Rhimes. If you're on a Shonda Rhimes TV show, then there's nothing but sex with black women. And,
right, but there's
black women.
there's a legacy
for my
black
needs.
men being lynched just because they said
They
hello
looked.
to a white woman.
Just
Like it's
because
crazy.
Just because they said bye, baby.
Emmett Till.
In 1955.
Emmett Till. It's just crazy.
So why don't y'all look that up? Okay.
Yeah, y'all.
Why don't y'all look that up?
All right, James.
Yeah,
They're getting
James.
fired up. All right, so now back to our ridiculous segment.
Now back to the swirl.
this is absurd.
So I want to do something special with.
I'm doing this under duress.
I'm doing something special with the swirl today.
Under duress.
Okay, what's some
I've
special?
been feeling motivated. I'm still going to talk about a white woman at one point, but I'm going to do something special towards the end. Now, there could have been a swirl in this movie. It could have been, I think, one solid swirl point. All right? Okay. And the swirl should happen with Arsenio Hall. All right? So when Arsenio Hall, Eddie Murphy go to the club, they've been in Africa. Like a white woman to them, even an Asian Puerto Rican, is probably like seeing a unicorn. They're like, what is that? What is that thing? I want to know what that is. And I saw Viola Davis and a guy, I guess her boyfriend, and they were two dark individuals having sex on camera.
It took
you
you
need to see
literal year to get to this point.
Yes.
But I actually am 100% behind what you're saying.
I mean,
you're saying that it would be important and great to see an actual sex scene because we see sex scenes with two white people all the time.
Yeah.
So to see an actual sex scene with two dark-skinned
individuals,
people,
and
it be sexy and not weird or whatever, and white people were watching it and are like,
Devil
great,
with a blue
that's
dress.
just.
There's a great one.
yes, Devil in the Blue. No, you're right.
Pull it up on your phone right now.
You're right. Devil.
I'm sure there are a lot.
During the
right
swirl,
here.
I was just watching.
Devil with a blue dress support. But the reason I brought up her skin color because I
Right.
feel like I have to because I'm like the point is that her skin color is his color or darker because you don't see it. Like I hadn't seen it honestly until I was watching How to Get Away with Murder. And I was like, oh, and it was just bodies, just like, and you saw they made sure there was a shot of arm to arm, and I was like, you don't see that, and I feel like this movie could have done it because Eddie had the power to make that happen at that point.
Right.
You know,
Speaking of, I'm remembering now that in Devil with a Blue Dress, they're fully clothed. So
Okay, that's
but that movie, that TV show, for instance,
Man,
they made sure to make it a
talk
point.
about that makes me want to go back. I'm sure there are,
They're probably
but I wonder how many.
I mean, how often you just see skin, like you just see the skin touch, and it's like, oh, these are like strong.
Well,
beautiful.
I guess it kind of happened in Love and Basketball, though. Sonali.
Yes.
New Jack City.
Right.
Yeah, but those are also those
man.
also are like, those are also like. I mean, if you recall a FUBU film, like those films are for us to see that. Right. You know, John Landis.
I think that having what you're saying happen in this film, it's a coulda, shoulda, woulda. It would never happen in this film.
No.
It would never happen in this film. And I think the film wouldn't be what it is. You know, like I see your point.
He could have. I think
it's dubious.
Okay.
No, but it's a point.
It's over. No,
it's a point.
It's over. It's over. All right.
So,
yes, James the Third.
So,
don't piss me
Hancock,
off.
right? So, Hancock is.
He brings out Hancock.
Yeah, can you please explain to Natasha why you just said the words Hancock?
So I just sort of
I'm in a room full of men. It's
just about
explain yourself quick. I know where the exits are.
Hancock is a film starring Will Smith.
Oh, that okay, yeah.
And it's a story about a black man.
How it relates to anything, no one ever knows.
This from Swirl McGee over here.
The Swirl has a point.
Well, I bring it up. I bring it up now because I think it particularly relates to Coming to America because
there's no way.
You want
no, because
how, James? Explain this. How?
No, because so in Hancock is the story of a man who doesn't know his past. He doesn't know his history.
Eddie Murphy knows.
Hold on, I'm not
James
done.
Looks so
all right, let James
finish. But when he learns what his journey is, it's because of love. Do you know what I mean? Like it's because
it's not. It's because of the white dude telling us be better.
Give me a second. It's because it's because he has a special person, a one person.
No, literally the dude who's like, be better. Take this.
Who he's supposed to be with. Who is his soulmate? Who is his? Who is his soulmate?
He's an Egyptian guy,
and in Coming to America, Prince Akeem.
Can we get to the? Can we skip
is
to like
searching for his one true love, and then he finds her. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
but they can't be together because if they're together, then the world starts falling apart.
But before that happens, there's a brief moment when the love's like, you know what, this can't be. We can't be.
Right.
That's what Charlize Theron says to Will Smith.
To Will Smith.
It's a stretch, but
all
right.
All right, Braylock, can you take us?
Yeah, that's enough of that. Good Lord. All right.
Oh my God.
That's the longest we ever let that go before.
Yeah.
Most what?
That's the longest we ever let that go.
Oh my goodness. Both advocating for black men and white women.
I know. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's what Hancock does. I don't necessarily agree with that. I just don't want it to be.
I just want to get to a point where there's no race. We're just humans.
We get it.
People love him. People.
Honestly, you're like a person who who says something that was accidentally racist, but then makes it more racist. Keep going. It's like no. We
when you get to the end, it makes sense though. You got to get to the end though.
Okay, so we're at the final part. We're doing the cause. That's how we rate this film. So we rate this film not based on how good how much we enjoyed it personally, but how much we feel that it helps the cause of leading black actors in Hollywood. And leading black actors in major motion pictures that are not FUBU films, particularly not. And here's the thing, just so to clarify again, there are some black movies for black people by black people that are great, fantastic, and we do need to keep having those movies.
Yeah, we want the fans to know we're not.
Man, I ain't saying nothing to them.
We're not.
We're not trying to shit on black films.
We're not. We love black films.
We love black films.
The point is that it shouldn't just be, and also honestly, black films in a context in and of itself. No, there are some black films that aren't good, but what I'm saying,
what I'm saying is, don't be clarifying yourself. Okay, when y'all say stuff, okay, all right. If you say we review movies that are studio back movies, we fucking review movies that are studio pictures. We all know they're indie films, and we acknowledge that almost in every episode. But don't be defending yourself because some dude in his room on Twitter was like, how come? Man, fuck, nigga, listen. This is my thing, man. Nigga, listen. If you want to talk, we doing studio pictures. Go to the cause, Bray.
Okay, yeah. So we're doing the cause. So either we feel like it fully supports the cause. You give it a black fist. If it was so, a white palm. If it didn't help, we get nothing.
Even the fact that we have a segment called The Cause, that dude.
Oh my
All right.
Listen to it. All right. Okay.
Trying to help people here.
Yes.
Look out
So-
for my hashtag. No more swirl.
Great. So, cool. Is that we got it? Great. So
Yep.
we're going to do it. One hand draw.
Yes.
All right. On the count of three, we're going to throw it up.
Eyes are closed.
There's a middle. Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Yeah.
Oh.
I almost was with, but I'm
Yeah,
okay.
no.
So okay.
Same.
So what we got? Natasha, James the third, and myself. Black Fist.
Black Fist.
Jerah gave it a white palm. So that's 3.5 out of 4. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Who wants to go? Should I go? Oh, let me go first.
Go
So I gave it a Black Fist ultimately because I honestly think this might be the most successful or the most well-known movie with a predominantly black cast that did like well at the box office. Everybody, like, I know so many people who are white and will be like, Coming to America is my favorite, or what? Not one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite Eddie Murphy movies. Like, I love Coming to America. It's a great movie, and it's a predominantly black cast. And the thing is, if I today were to go see, I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time. I've heard on very popular, I won't call them out, but I've heard on very popular podcasts that talk about movies, people referring to Straight Outta Compton as a black film, even though it's doing successfly, like financially, domestically at the box office. People are still like, well, that's a black film. Why is it a black film? Just because it's about black culture? Like it annoys me. I mean, even when we say food films, I'm like getting annoyed at myself, honestly, because I'm like, you know, it's just a film, you know? And just because it has a predominantly black cast doesn't mean that it's just for black people.
Right.
And so nobody thinks of Coming to America as a film just for black people, which is like, why? Because Eddie Murphy was a huge star. This movie was very funny, even though I think it's not. I personally don't think it's as good as I once thought it was.
Sure.
But I still can recognize this film, like, I think had to have moved the needle, or at least is a, like, kind of like, if there was a legal case, we could be like, well, like, please, like, see, you know, prior case Coming to America.
Right,
okay.
right.
Before you come at me and say that black films can't do well internationally.
Yeah.
Coming to America made more money internationally than it did domestically. It made like $200 million. So it's like, so please don't come at me with that nonsense.
Right.
It's, if the movie is good, it's going to do good. Period.
Yes.
Right. So honestly, for that alone, I gave it a Black Fist. So that's my point. James.
Yeah. I guess I'll say the same, and then also, like, just in thinking about this movie has, you know, Eddie Murphy, it has Cuba Gooding Jr. in his first movie role. You know, it has Samuel L. Jackson. You know, like, and these actors went on to be like, you know, continued to be huge after this. And you know, I think that people saw this movie and saw something in this movie, and then this kind of goes against the way I've rated some other movies, and it may be a bias as to why I was like half. I was like, am I going to give this a fist? Am I going to give it a palm?
Right.
I wasn't sure because, but then I struggled because I was like, this does have a predominantly black cast, but it's not. It doesn't feel like a movie that's like that's saying like. We're in this movie because we're black. It's like a movie about people that are black, but not. You know what I mean? And and that's why I gave it a fist. I feel like it's a great movie, and then the characters are black, but it's a great movie first.
Yeah, right. I agree. I think that it's a great movie where the actors happen to be black, like the jokes and things that make the film stand alone. I also feel like it's there's two things. One, I think that the reason why I gave the fist, like, while its sort of righteous cause has depreciated over time.
Yes, very much so.
So it's that, you know, the idea, you know better, you do better. They did as best as they could
Yeah.
at the time. And it also, as a result, was like the Helen of Troy of films. Like it's the film that launched 1,000 careers.
That was nice.
Yeah.
And behind the camera, in front of the camera, and so for that alone, like I feel like it, as far as like doing something for the cause, it did everything at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
To put something on the resume of thousands of like just the like if you look at the number of people that are in the Zamunda scene, just the extras alone, like it got a resume like on like a mark on their resume that like would be paid attention to.
Exactly.
I think it's brilliant for that and many more reasons.
Right.
So I gave it a palm, and the thing is, if you were to ask me what my favorite movies were, this would be one of the. I say the same three, and this is one of the three, but for some reason. And I think it's because I'm looking at it from 2015, and I understand like what it meant, and I think it definitely helped the cause. I think I could tell Eddie cared about everyone involved. He cared about. I mean, he probably had stagehands who were black. He probably did the most, but for some reason, the two female leads. For some reason, it's like, and I know I just did the Swirl, but for some reason, like the two female leads, especially that sister, I just can't get over for some reason because I feel like. If he was given the green light to do whatever movie he wanted,
right?
And the thing is, I get it. Like, there's so many other things you're probably having to deal with. Like, he's probably trying to just make sure he can get a bunch of black people in this movie. So it's like a lot of battles he's fighting. But just in my head, I'm like, if you were in charge of the script, you could have done things a little different. Because my thing is, if you don't. And I'm not trying to put Eddie on blast, but like if he doesn't, then who will? No, I'm not saying, but like I'm just saying, like if you at the height of your career when you can do whatever you want, if you can't defend black women, then who can? You know what I'm saying? Like at that point in time, it was like you could have put, I don't know, like he could have put like a dark skinned woman as a lead. He could have made the sister like flaky, but not so slutty. You know what I'm saying? He could have changed it.
Right.
And the thing is, he didn't. I mean. The miss was the black miss awareness. You know, he could have done whatever. Like, I understand why you had women in bathing suits and stuff like that, but the thing is, there wasn't even a montage of them doing like the stereotypical like pageant stuff. You know, like I want to save the world. Like, it wasn't even that aspect of it. So that's the only reason I didn't. And the thing is, I don't even know why I was affected by this. Like this time watching it, I was like, that stood out to me so hard that I just couldn't let it go.
Right.
But it is a great movie. It's quotable.
Yeah.
But it was it's so quotable. It's still so funny.
Metamorphosis.
It is. I mean, it's
You're
weird.
growing.
But it's still a great movie, and I don't want to make it like I'm trying to put pressure just on him. It's just like when you see that,
it's a major problem.
Because if I have like a little cousin now, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, man. Right. Like I'm trying to I'm more conscious of the things that like I show her, and I'm like, if she was to see that
3 minutes in, like 3 naked like topless
women, and they just clean the royal penis, royal penis, which again we all know may not be accurate.
Oh, the science behind it has yet.
We haven't got to the science yet.
That's what we're ending.
Definitely a faulty.
Natasha, thanks for coming.
Thank you
thanks
so much for
coming.
Real quick, is there anything you would like to plug?
I just wrapped a Netflix show.
Oh, snap.
That I can't go into much more detail about, but keep your eyes peeled for that.
Awesome.
Congrats on that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Can people find you on Twitter?
Absolutely. At Natasha Rothwell on Twitter. I'm on Instagram.
Great.
At NF Rothwell. And I quit Facebook 6 months ago, so you can't find me there.
Good for you.
Off that Facebook. That being said, we are on Facebook now.
If I were on there, I would like
I just
you guys.
made a Facebook fan page for Black Men Can't Jump.
I was gonna do it. Y'all don't need to. The fans don't need to hear this, but I was gonna do it. Thank you, Jonathan, for making it.
Yeah, thanks for putting that on the podcast. And then Twitter at Black Men Podcast and Instagram too.
And can I just say,
yes,
to those listening, if you guys are listening to this, if this is your first one, go back and listen to every single one and tell your friends.
So nice.
For sure, and I get a lot of asks to do podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And when I got the invite for this, I jumped because I was just like, what you guys are talking about and bringing to like the forefront of conversation is important and necessary. And race doesn't have to be a scary thing that we can't talk about, but we can talk about it, and through that like dialogue, like things can change. And so thank you guys for doing this and having me.
Thank you.
Did you hear what she said? She jumped to the episode.
Jumped. I knew when I said it. I knew when I said it. Now regret it. Actually, unsubscribe.
All right, guys. Now it's time for some plugs.
Oh yeah,
yeah, time for some plugs
for us because we already plugged Natasha's stuff.
Oh yeah, she good.
Yeah,
she good.
JohnBraylock.com. Everybody can go to that website, check out my videos, my show dates, look at my headshots.
Just stare at your photos.
Just stare at my photos. You can find me at John Braylock on Twitter, at John Braylock on Instagram. Yeah, next one. What's that?
Any shows?
Any shows coming up? I mean, I don't know.
Braylock, guys, what you gotta know is Braylock is blowing up.
Yo,
he's so busy. He's
Hollywood.
like,
this is not
like Braylock right now. Like right now, you guys don't understand. Like I'm in the dark. It's lights on, but Braylock is so big and important. There's a shadow just all around him. Like we just in the dark right now.
Oh my goodness!
Bunch of darknesses.
Yeah, you can see me for 2 minutes on Jim Gaffigan show.
Dude, that 2 minutes count, bro. 2 minutes.
That's 2 minutes that I'm not on the Jim Gaffigan show.
2 minutes is a big deal, man. First off, he's on the episode that's full of stars.
Yeah.
The season finale.
The season finale. I was at work, y'all. Commercial came on, and Braylock's face is in it. When they were listing the guests in the episode, name. It's what is it? It said like Cypher Sounds. It was Patrick, right?
Pat Noth.
Pat Noth. And then it said Jonathan Braylock. Full long ass name. Long ass name. Jonathan Braylock. That's a long name, bro.
Yeah, that's why my website is just John Braylock. No H. All y'all Jonathans with H's, get out of America.
Yeah,
nah, I'm just kidding. Y'all are cool, but obviously you know that Jonathan without the H is the real spelling. All right, that's all for me. That's it.
I mean, his mom named him Jonathan Braylock. I like to call him Bray Bray. Bray Bray.
Would you just do your plug?
You have plugs.
Okay. Yeah, I got something.
Oh, that's right. You don't have any because you don't have social media.
I got something to plug though. Hold on. I want to plug JerahMilligan.com. Got a website, y'all.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got a website, y'all.
Congratulations.
Thank you. JerahMilligan.com.
It better be hosted by Squarespace.
Squarespace.
We'll just pretend like it is.
Look, man, Squarespace, if y'all give me a free website, they gave the show a free website.
Okay.
They need to get Jerah Milligan a free website. Brother broke.
All right.
Okay?
They're not
anyway,
sponsoring this episode, so it's okay.
Good. Just don't play this one for them.
They can never listen to this.
Never this episode. But JerahMilligan.com. What else we got? Jonathan and I perform at UCB East Lloyd Night Wednesdays at 7:30. Come check that out. Lisa from school. I'm about to get Twitter.
Uh-oh.
I'm not Instagramming though. I'm not Instagramming.
Get out of here.
I'm about to get Twitter.
I'm about to get.
It's a countdown.
Sign up. It's an episode countdown. All right. It's 3 more episodes to go before the Twitter is unleashed.
James.
All right. JamesThirdComedy.com at JamesThirdComedy on Twitter and Instagram. Third is 3RD. And if you're in New York on October 29th at 7:30 p.m., I'm recording a comedy album. James III, a comedy album.
So time out, your comedy album is called James III, and your website is James III.
This is
okay.
unnecessary.
I'm so confused.
No, you know,
right now.
I was confused too. I was like, hold on, but his name is James
This
III,
is
right?
not confusing.
But it's
not a confusing.
But hold on, your name is James III, right?
That's my name, yes.
All right.
But your website is James III.
That's okay.
So it's
and
not
then
accurate.
so your Twitter is James III.
That's right.
But your comedy album is James the Third.
Okay, but my comedy album, though, if you were looking for it online, all you would have to do is search James Third Comedy 3RD and it will come up.
Well, wait, but hold time, that's totally different, though. See, you just said James Third, but your comedy album is called James the Third.
How weird would it be if you called me as a person James Third? That's weird, right? Like, isn't that bizarre?
Well, that's what your name
agree.
is.
That's why did you name your website that?
I know, like you did that.
All right. Anyway, anything else?
So America. This is what I have to go through. Okay?
It's not our fault.
We
This is
don't-
what I have to go through. My whole life.
Do you have any other plugs?
Okay, those are my plans.
Okay, great. So next week, guys, next week we're doing Wild Wild West.
Wicked Wild Wild.
Wicked, wicked, wild. Wicked, wild. Wicked, wicked, wild, wild West.
Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada. None of this 600 this brother running this Buffalo Soldier. Like I told you.
All right. We could sing the whole song, but we don't have the copyright.
Okay, you're right.
But here's the thing.
We're going straight to the Wild Wild West. We're going straight to the Wild Wild.
Okay.
All right, that was.
But here's the thing. I know a lot of you are like, yo, why you guys, this is the first Will Smith film that you're doing? It is.
It is. Because, listen, guys, we love Will Smith so much. We had to, like...
What, take him down a notch?
We deliberated.
All right, you're right. I'm sorry. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So next week, Wild Wild West.
Jim West.
Desperado.
Rough Rider. Okay, stop it. Next week is Wild Wild West. Go rewatch it if you can bear it.
I think it was on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
And it's like Will Smith, so Will Smith movies.
It's Will Smith
everywhere.
though.
You know what I'm saying? You love Will Smith.
What I mean?
This was the height of William.
I just don't tweet us about why are we doing Wild Wild West. We already hate ourselves.
Yeah, if you can't stand the heat, then get out the Wild Wild
West. Oh,
all right. We'll
Wild Wild West.
See you next week. Bye, y'all.
That was a HeadGum podcast.